You have the cutest eyes, honey. They are cute as a pair of buttons. I gotta learn to start to grip things a whole lot better. Moving on. That visual gag is done, and also my grandma, those were her buttons, her ghost is gonna haunt me forever. I'm John Ritlin with a retro review of Coraline, from the director of Nightmare Before Christmas and James and the Giant Peach, which was about sexual awakening. James and the Giant Peach. Changed my goddamn mind on that. Moving on. What I liked about this movie was everything from the atmosphere to the characters to the music was really fucking tremendous. And the voice acting was really good. I mean, you had Dakota Fanning, Terry Hatcher. Very good likeness once, Terry Hatcher's character turns a little evil because, she did look like a weird spindly spider creature all the way back to one of the Bond movies. But that was really mean, but I digress. Also, Keith David voices a cat. So if you haven't seen Coraline, by the way, there's going to be some spoilers here, as you probably guessed with the little button gag that failed miserably. It's like a wet fart in church. But what was great about this movie is you have Coraline. She moves to a house with her parents. It's an old house, and there's these two old ladies that rent these apartments. And it's kind of like, it's a sectioned off house. And Coraline wants her parents to pay attention to her, but they're too busy getting their gardening stuff together, and everything's dreary. There's this boy, Wybie, who has a grandma that's kind of overbearing because he doesn't want her, or she doesn't want him to go in the house because her sister went missing a number of years ago when she went into that house. And Wybie talks a lot. There's also that cat that Keith David voices a little bit later. And Coraline gets kind of bored pretty easily from where she moves. She doesn't have any friends, and yes, there's some interesting characters, but they keep calling her Caroline instead of Coraline. I'm having to correct myself saying that because Coraline isn't a very common name. So she's eventually puttering around. She's bothering her mom, and she finds this weird door. She wants to know how she can get in this door. And there's this weird button key, and eventually she unlocks the door, and then she finds out that only at night can she go down this door, down this little portal, and get to this other world. So everything's dreary and everything, even during the day or during night. But at night when she goes there, everything's bright and cheery. Now it's dark, but it's bright and cheery. She goes there and everything seems good. It seems like a warm, inviting house. She sees her mother, except it's her other mother, and she's got buttons over her eyes. And the dad, who is not dedicated to his work like he is in the real world. In this other world, he is a piano playing, jazz making, gardening king. It's a whole lot of fun and everything. And the boy that talks too much, Wybie, is silent. And the cat talks also. It's kind of actually cool to hear Keith David voice a cat. I know I've said that a few times. It just is really cool. And everything seems good at first. She has this nice feast, and, she's tucked into bed. And then suddenly she shows up, and she's back in her old dilapidated house. It's a dilapidated house. Cue the Matt Hardy references. And she thinks it's a dream. Everything goes on. She's trying to explain to her parents. Again, nobody's paying attention to her. Like any kid, she just wants acceptance and wants people to listen to her. So eventually she keeps going back to this world, and about halfway through, the other mother says, well, if you want to stay here forever, we just got to do one tiny thing, and it's buttons, and, a sewing needle and string. You have to sew buttons into your eyes. Okay, a bit dark. Everything takes a real dark turn there because Coraline does not want to do this, and the other mother says, well, soon you'll see things our way. Oh boy. Everything takes a real dark turn all of a sudden. And also what I said earlier about the missing sister, the grandma keeps not wanting Wybie to go there, and you only hear the grandmother until very late in the movie. And there's also these two older ladies that kind of do weird psychic stuff, and they kind of see things, and they kind of know crazy things, but they're also very old, and one is like almost blind as a bat, and then one's very crazy, and they feature a visual gag at one point where this old lady has a lot of curves and is practically just covered by pasties. In a kid's movie, by the way. In a kid's movie. Now, this is not necessarily for little kids. This movie actually kind of scared me. It still spooks me just because it's that eerie feeling of, holy shit, yeah, I want to be accepted, but I don't want buttons over my eyes because I don't want a weird spider creature to kill me. And she decides not to go back all of a sudden. Now, this is after hearing about these kids that she, basically hears about these kids that want to be rescued. And one of them is a little sister of the grandma, who got dispatched. They explained the buttons got sewn over the eyes. She said she loved us, and then she consumed us. She consumed our life. She basically needs young lives to be sustained. Basically, however young starlet wants to become an old starlet stays the same. I'm pretty certain this is how Selena Gomez somehow manages to keep looking like she's about 18. Moving on, Fountain of Youth. I know they have the secret for it. Enough conspiracy theories. So basically, she goes back to the old ladies. They give her this object, and it's this weird, like, triangle thing that helps her see. Helps you see the bad in things or the lost things. And the cat helps her, cat basically helps her get them because she's got to play a game to basically rescue the kids. And oh yeah, her parents get taken. So that's part of the reason why she gets, motivated to go back to the world. So she strikes a deal with the Beldam. I almost said the Bedlam. Not like Bruiser Bedlam, but not Bedlam. And she's this creature that, she gets cocky and everything because she's always had things her way and she's always been able to outsmart them, and she figures a kid can't outsmart her. So the cat ends up helping her and basically saying, strike a game with her, strike a deal with her. She won't play fair, but you could possibly beat her. Save the eyes, and then you save your parents, and you can leave. Of course, the creature is fucking lying. And we get, the dad who's been disjointed and everything after the other dad, after he had tried talking and then got, his mouth destroyed and everything. He is on this giant bug in the garden and trying to kill Coraline, and she dispatches him because the bridge collapses because this giant bug is apparently stupid and doesn't realize, how breaking wood works. So then the dad with his last effort, take the first eye. She finds first eye there, and then she goes to the theater, and this is after she had seen this, this show featuring those two older women, that is, and the one with the pasties on her, because we really didn't need to see that animated form or not. But there are these dogs, these terriers that were, from the other world, from this world, and also from the real world, where one old lady basically likes them, but also stuffs and mounts them. And they're playing bats and stuff like that. And she manages to get the second eye away from the women after basically getting the bats to sick the taffy, because they were made of taffy, because there's a candy motif going on. And then she manages to get the other one from this other version of a Russian dancer guy who has a bunch of circus mice. And the cat had dispatched one earlier and then dispatched the other one and helped her get the third eye. Well, then the world keeps eroding. Like, every single thing keeps eroding because this world was only created in a little bubble to capture Coraline, basically show her everything she could have, but then eventually eat her, as spider creatures are known to do. And then she basically outsmarts her by saying, I see where my parents are, but I'm going to tell you they're behind that door. And she unlocks it. Well, then she breaks the snow globe, where the snow globe gets broken eventually, and the parents get freed, but she's trying to basically get away from, the Beldam. And the cat gets thrown at her just before, thrown at the Beldam just before this, and rips out the button eye. So now she suddenly can't see, but she can hunt by sound, as spiders are known to do. So she basically tries to get her. She's got these weird robotic arm things, and one gets detached in the door and just kind of lays there. So that's not going to factor in at all. But Coraline gets back. The cat eventually gets back somehow. I'm not exactly sure how the cat got back. And she thinks, everything's free, everything's good. The kids are free, but the kids say, you're in terrible danger. There's only one key, but you got to get rid of it. You got to hide it somewhere, burn it, whatever. You got to get rid of it. Otherwise, she'll keep coming back, even as her world eroded. So then she's trying to get rid of the key. The weird spidery hand comes to get her, and then YB manages to somehow stop the creature, barely, and then almost gets dispatched. Not a very good, hero there. And then Coraline, basically, tries to capture it, and then he somehow gets out of the well, smashes the robot hand. So that's it. They dump that down there, they get rid of the key, and that's it. Everybody's happy, everybody's good, and it's all wrapped up in a nice, terrifying bow, and it was really, this is a frightening movie for kids, a pretty scary movie even now, especially for an animated movie. And I really enjoyed it, though, because the music was great from the very beginning to the very end. The voice acting was fucking incredible, and what I really liked about this was just how great it was, how great the overall feel was. So I would love to know what you guys have to say in the comments about Coraline. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritlin. I'll see you soon.